being 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 13th, 2009, I call the Lisle Library District Committee of the whole meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Marjorie Brotelli.
Here.
Jay Fisher.
Here.
Richard Flint.
Here.
Thomas Hummel.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistek, absent. Laurie Wayne, absent.
Quorum being present, move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is opportunity for visitors to speak. Do any of the visitors wish to address the committee?
I'm only visitor, not visitors. But,
Okay.
is that on?
That is on, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, seeing none, we'll move to item 3, which is the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget discussion. And this evening we'll be talking about building expenses, operating, insurance, contractual services, equipment, materials, programs, restricted usage, and contingencies. So Director Weinstein.
Okay. So we all have fresh copies of the spreadsheets. There were a couple of budget-to-budget percentage errors and column heading errors, but those have been since corrected. We've also corrected the public posting on our website. I'd like to begin with a brief overview of how the library manages its expense lines and how that relates to the public's property tax bill, because sometimes there's a little confusion there. So today we're discussing our working budget, and that's for fiscal year 1920, and that begins on July 1st of this year. The budget will guide us through until we pass our budget and appropriation ordinance, and that happens in September. That is our legal authority to spend our funds. Our attorney has provided the library with financial ordinance schedule with statutory deadlines that allows the library to conduct proper vendor quotes. We'll do those requests. We do the necessary research to accurately project costs. So there's about a 4-month window there to continue gathering cost information. Some of those costs that are upcoming would be health insurance costs and things like that, and we won't know that until closer to fall. So the budget is a very separate document from our tax levy. The levy ordinance is the process by which the library determines the amount to tax district residents so that we can operate. And we do this action in December. Our library has lowered its levy for the past 2 years, and we also happen to lower our budget for the past 2 years, but at a lower percentage. This year we've identified a number of projects, and we've also yet to identify larger projects, concretely. So I want to keep those facts in mind when we discuss expenses. So, for example, just because a line item may increase in this budget, it does not mean that your tax levy will increase. We could, in fact, have a higher budget and due to costs or whatnot, and then still pass a lower levy this calendar year. That could happen. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but that could happen, just to differentiate between the budget and the levy. So tonight, as President Fisher mentioned, we're discussing costs related to the building, operating, insurance, contractual, equipment, materials, program, restricted use, and contingency expenses. Next month, we will discuss employee costs, personnel development, .02, and special reserves, and then we'll also have the revenues and expense summary pages. And this year, we've added 2 new columns to the budget sheets. We have the actuals through February, and then we also have the projections through June. This was a board recommendation last year. And then, before we move on to the actual sheets, just a reminder that some of the budgeted line items for fiscal year 1920 have increased solely due to moving the .02 expenditure amounts. So in other words, the .02 levy was eliminated last year, and the fund still exists, and we're accounting for those 1920 expenditures in this budget using the corporate fund account lines. Okay, so let's start with building costs. These are costs associated with our utilities generally, gas, sewer, water, electric. We also pay our landscaping costs from this category, and then maintenance repair account lines. So this is where we've moved some of those .02 expenses into the maintenance repairs line. So again, that's why you see an increase from 1819 to 1920. And then outside of that special line item, between 1819 and 1920, you generally see only a slight increase in a couple of lines. those being utilities, with approximately 5% across the board there. And then you'll see a 15% increase in landscaping. We did have a lot of salt calls this year and some ice events, as well as some large snows where we had multiple pushes. Are there any questions about this page?
That's page 2.
Yes. Yes.
You were provided with a new, yes.
Does yours say amended?
Yeah, that's,
Okay, yeah.
it's still page 2,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
We're talking about building costs, yes.
Okay, one of them, the 5664-00, this year we're expecting to be at 18.5, and the proposed is 83.7. What's the big difference there?
Okay, that again is our .02 expenses. We moved over to the 1920 budget. We are projected to spend 18.5 through the rest of this year, but we had that placeholder account line from a .02 moved over to this corporate budget line. So instead of spending from a .02 fund, we will be spending from this maintenance repairs fund.
Line item.
Right,
Line
line,
item,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so when we look at the budget as presented here, it's only out of the operating fund, operating fund.
Correct.
So nothing is out of special reserves or anything else?
No.
Okay.
Or out of .02, as Tatiana said, the increase was what monies we had spent this year from the .02 fund are now being moved next year into that maintenance repair
Right.
line item.
Exactly.
Any other questions on this page? All right, we'll move on.
Okay, great. The second page is, or the second category is the operating expenses. And this sheet lays out basically our printing, our mailing, our processing, our bank, and computer supplies. In total, this category is increasing by just 2%. This is mostly due to processing supplies, cataloging supplies such as specialty cases for some new formats like digital players, security tags for the newer items, etc. The other line item is publishing there that's increased, and this is increased just a bit due to upcoming newspaper notifications for facility work. So when we do a call for bids, we have to post these in official notifications, and they can run anywhere from $100 to $300 a piece. So that's why it's increased a bit there. But in general, it's pretty close to what we spent last year. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Insurance. This category has decreased by a little over 2%. And this is mostly due to lowering our treasurer's bond. Because we lowered our levy, we lower our bond. And then both the property insurance and workers' comp insurance were adjusted lower. This is a projection by Lisle. Lisle is our risk assessment group. And then just an FYI, the little anomaly here is when you look at the projections, our projected amount shows as over due to being invoiced on a calendar year. So for which two line items? Is it workers' comp, Ginger?
Right, and property insurance.
And property insurance. Those will be adjusted by our auditors because, again, we're invoiced on a calendar year, so those will be moved into the next year.
So these numbers are based on projections from our insurer?
No. These are projections to spend.
Not the projections, but the budget. The
Yes.
budget numbers.
Yes, these are our projected budget numbers, so they're a smidge lower
Okay.
for, anything else on this page?
All right, any other questions on
Insurance.
insurance?
Okay. And then contractual. So when we talk about contractual expenses, we're talking about our legal services, outsourced vendors, audit services, and appraisals. We lowered our legal services account line by 25%. We increased our tech consulting line, and again by 100%. This is due to that moving that .02 expense line into this corporate fund line. We increased the other contractual line by $9,500. This is for new app implementation. We're looking towards going with another vendor for our app, and as well as a possible salary study. Our last salary study was done in 2013, and generally best practice is to have one every 5 years. And then our audit line went up, and that's just due to the unknowns of what the results of the RFPs will bring us. Any questions?
Why are we lowering our legal line by $5,000?
Well, we made that, I mean, this is, again, up for discussion, but we made that determination because of our actual expenses have been lowering year to year. Administration has generally been reviewing most of the FOIAs ourselves and other.
I would just offer that legal services is the sort of line that you really can't go by past performance. I mean, if we're going to get sued by someone, they probably aren't someone who sued us before. They may well not be.
That's true.
So, you know, it might be good just to leave it where it is.
Well, we thought about that. I mean, we do have a contingency fund as well, and that's why we have a contingency fund for those cases.
Yeah, we're really not supposed to use contingency. Contingency isn't supposed to take the place of rational planning.
That's true, but the rational planning is using actuals. I mean, and I know you can't always depend on actuals and varying legals and stuff.
In almost every other category, but not this.
Well, I'm open to changing it. If the board
I'm not
wishes.
opposing that, and we're not going to vote on this for a couple of meetings now, but I just offer that perspective.
Any other thoughts on that?
Tatiana, what kind of lawsuit would not be covered by our insurance?
Completely covered?
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out if we reduced, you know, our budget, is there a lot of different lawsuits, you know, ways that we could be sued that would not be covered by our insurance?
I'll look into that. I'll see what our insurance covers in regards to that.
I'm sure it would most likely like a fall or something where somebody gets hurt, and I would assume the insurance would pick up.
For that kind of
Yeah.
suit?
Yeah.
Yes. But that's not covering every kind
No, I
of
understand.
lawsuit we could
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Look into that.
I mean, I'm okay with the number, so.
Tatiana, I have a question on this. On the draft project list that we were provided, would the facility appraisal, 1, 2, 3 account numbers down, does that fall under the facility assessment? Because, no?
No, that is,
Okay.
can you talk about the appraisal, Ginger, in terms of the insurance?
Okay.
Is that what you're
Or
talking about?
contractual.
Well, it's titled facility appraisal.
Oh, that's for our fixed assets.
I'm sorry?
Our fixed assets of the,
Oh,
for the
fixed assets.
of the library, yeah.
Okay.
I think what you're referring to is an
Right.
independent consultant to assess the facility.
Okay, and where is that amount addressed? Is it addressed under contractual services?
No.
Wouldn't that be sort of a contract, or?
That's actually under special reserve. We have a
Under special
consulting fee
reserves,
there. Yeah,
okay.
and we're not talking
That
about
was
that
my next
category.
question, would it
Mhm.
come on, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I would just suggest that next year we look at a complete budget, because a lot of the questions, I think, would be avoided, at least in my mind, if I could see all the categories completed, you know, the budget all in front of me. I work with nonprofits all the time. I work in, and have worked on budgets in the private sector. And, you know, we've never chopped it up like this, just for the reason that the example we've had right here, because she's looking to tie some of the things that have been discussed on the facility committee, and it's not reflected here because it's on a budget page we're gonna see later.
The whole board will have the opportunity to see the whole budget next month.
I know, but that to me is, it's a time waster. It's a time waster for her because she's looking for something to tie what the facility committee did to here. it makes no sense. We're gonna have to look at it, and now we're gonna have to look at it and integrate more pages, and then look at it. It makes no sense to do it that way.
What Secretary Bartelli brought up isn't reflected in these pages, so it's not tying to anything here.
I understand, that's my point. My point is, if you had the entire budget given to us, then it would be reflected. It makes no sense to have a partial budget, have us look it over, and then have her ask a question, where is this? And she's told, oh, that's in the special reserve budget, and you're gonna see that later. Because what we're gonna have to do is now go back to this one and review it, and still look at what we're gonna get next time. You have to look at it as a total. I mean, this is, I've had experience, I'm not gonna say anymore, I've learned.
Well, will we have an opportunity then in one of our future budget meetings? We'll have the complete budget.
That'll be next month.
The next
And
month
then,
we'll have.
I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with that. As long as we have enough time to review the complete budget.
And I think the practice is that most of these categories are they're easily digestible. There's not a lot of fluctuation in these categories, utilities and some of the other categories we discussed. In the next cycle of paperwork, there are going to be more probably robust conversations about some of those budget items. And then we will reassess what we've discussed tonight so we can come up with a better draft of everything.
For the HR source, part of that, which I think you said was a salary study, is that?
No, this
No,
one?
that
Am I
was,
wrong,
that was
Diana?
back.
No, HR sources.
I'm sorry, I got you.
That's our
Okay,
subs-
okay.
that's
Got you.
kind of our-
One more down, I'm sorry. So is that, what do you think that's gonna be about?
The salary study?
Yeah.
It can run $4,000 to $5,000. I think that's what we spent last year.
Okay, because
And
the question,
Last time.
Oh,
Not
last time,
year.
sorry,
Yeah.
in 2013, that's right.
because the only question I have with that is, because we'll be doing something, either to this building or somewhere else, whatever, we might be moving people around possibly, as we see more efficiency. So I don't know if that might be a better time to do a salary study in case maybe jobs change or duties shift.
I think
don't
that
know.
would be years down, a couple of years down, like even if we make the decision to do something different,
Okay.
it would be probably a couple of years down the line.
Tom, I agree with you, because I think what comes before a salary study is actually an efficiency study. And I brought this up the year before I became a trustee when I was running. I got huge constituency support. I brought it up in a meeting, Jay, that I had with you in the first month. I brought it up at a trustee meeting at least twice. And I think we're putting lipstick on a pig if we're not willing to say, okay, we know and we have facts that are kept by the Illinois, the IMLS, that says our costs per capita are out of range for libraries that serve the population of our size, for libraries that serve populations surrounding us. And the only way to fix the problem is to find out where we're inefficient. So to have a salary study, it makes no sense to me until we bang out the inefficiencies, till we get rid of them. So to me, I would use the $4,000 to $5,000 towards, a process re-engineering study. And, corporate America has gone through process re-engineering multiple times. I don't know why we can't bring it, to this venue. So I say we postpone that. We use the money towards process re-engineering, efficiency, whatever you call it, and then we go after salaries of the jobs that we have and the job descriptions that we have.
I don't mind doing an efficiency study, but I think that might be a better time to do it, is that when we start deciding what we're gonna do with the building, probably, like, maybe do that simultaneously.
Maybe January?
I don't really know what the time, or you don't even agree with that.
I mean, the salary study, I'd like to be clear about what this is. I think what you're talking about is
Yeah.
numbers. What we're talking about is job description and equitable market salaries. You're gonna have a director every year. You
Oh,
will
sure.
have assistant director. You will have librarians in a library.
Sure.
And you'll have lower level positions. And what a salary study does is compare our salaries to nationwide salaries as well as salaries within our area. And talk about if they're well compensated or not, if we're up or down. Back in 2013, we had a comparison, we were 11% lower. We've since adjusted, but we haven't done anything since 2013 to look at what we're doing. Some of the skill sets that our librarians are tasked with have changed in the last 5 years. So that's what a salary study is. It's not talking about how many staff we have as compared to our building and our operations.
No, I'm not talking about just the numbers like that. That would be, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the salaries, and I don't know, maybe if the job descriptions change, like if we start moving things around, people might be doing different things.
True.
That's what I was referencing. I don't know if that would, maybe we should wait till that time to do it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get it done, like if we plan to do it, say in the January or February timeframe, we're gonna get it done in the next 12 months anyway. To repeat it a second time just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, this is a 1920 budget,
I
and it
understand.
doesn't mean we're doing it
In
in July.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of saying, well, having a salary study is pretty standard practice every 3 to 5 years. That, again, as I said, we're not saying we're going to take action upon it, but we want to say where we are in terms of the broader kind of benchmarking study, which is always defined with defined roles, right? So defined roles versus efficiency, I think it's really kind of a two different thing. One is the benchmark for that kind of role, what's the market salary is, and then here say, well, Lisle, does that fit Lisle's situation? Then we can make a determination whether that works or not. And regarding this efficiency study, I mean, I think we always want to be more efficient. The thing is that, this is not really more of a, this is more, it's not only, it's not a manufacturing environment where you have a strict benchmark or metric, you can say, 0.12 per like checkout, whatever it is, minutes or whatever. So we have to think about what would be the right metric in terms of efficiency study mine and say what we can say a good, really efficiency library, and it's not only people are efficient, but the best feedback is the users. What's the user experience? Everybody love that library and its services. So those will be the benchmark that we say that's how we're going to do our efficiency study. Right? So we can allow discussion.
Go ahead.
I think Marjorie, did you wish to?
No, go ahead, I have a question
Okay.
after that.
Liz?
I think I agree with you, and I have never done an efficiency study, although I am a Sigma green belt, but I've never done it in a manufacturing environment. What I've done and what I've been party to is process reengineering in movement and management of processes that had nothing to do with the manufacturing part. And it was more looking at a whiteboard and saying, take all your processes and throw them out the window. And if the goal is to do this, and we start here, throw everything out in between. And it wasn't to measure it against an established, a 0.2 per hour. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, how do you get it from here to there, even if it's not what the industry does at all? Even if it's, if it achieves it and it does it in the most efficient way, then, you can creatively adapt something, and then adopt it. I mean, so,
I mean, I think I got your point. I think maybe what you're talking about probably is more about specific the activity of that individual. Is there's overlapping or a gap within that we can kind of take a look at those kind of things that definitely
Right.
if you can bucket those as efficiency study because you eliminate waste, right, in the process. You have a duplicate effort.
like process reengineering is what I
Or you
should
find
say.
deficits. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
or
other thing.
gap that we're not unmet needs that were not filled. I think it's worth to take a look at in terms of how we operate. And yeah, I think we are pretty much on the same page. It's just different way of approaching it.
2 points. Number one, about delaying the salary study, you can always think of a reason to delay something. I'm in favor of just doing the salary study. And if we need to adjust it because some jobs get redefined, we can always do that. But number two, I don't love this idea that efficiency is the supreme standalone value for us. It is not. Efficiency coexists with equity and lots of other values. That's all.
I think, you know, I think the salary benchmark study is necessary. I think as we move forward, as we figure out what we can do, then we can certainly talk about looking to see the ways that we can improve, be more efficient, if there's gaps, what's equitable.
I mean, it's not a big dollar amount, I was just making a comment that it was maybe until after, it was independent of any efficiency study. That was my initial point, was just on the salary, maybe wait to see where we are in, let's say, 2 years, as far as how the buildings are arranged, et cetera. But it's not a big amount, so I mean.
And it may be a less amount.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what we did in
that's
2013.
That's fine. No, I understand.
I'm not sure we would,
Need the whole shebang.
Exactly.
Which is fine. So I just, it was more of a counter discussion.
All right, Marjorie?
And then also the OSG, does
Yes.
that again fall into special reserves? Because that was also on the draft.
no, because the draft encompasses .02 as well as special reserve possibilities, and again, just a draft. So OSG.
Which is, can you?
Yes, Outsourced
Solution
Solutions Group.
Okay.
Yes, that is our outsourced IT firm, and we moved that under this category because we've increased that line due to the .02 funds moving into the corporate. So OSG is now under that.
So did you just say that it's under the corporate?
OSG is under the corporate.
Okay, okay. And then one more. I did not attend the finance committee meeting, but I think I understood that you talked about the RFP for the audit. Do we have any idea what these, I see the amounts here. Do we have any idea how we arrived at that number?
So we're basing it off of our current audit fees, and we increased it just in case if the results come back and the board decides to go with a firm that's a little higher priced.
Okay.
We have that amount.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was going to say, any other questions?
Okay. One of the other things that I had questions on this page were, if we look at our strategic plan, we wanted to investigate ways to do shared services with other governments and organizational bodies. And I was wondering, have we investigated like sharing data outsourcing, sharing things like our financial, our accounting and things of that nature? And can we, since we have so many rounds going on in the budget process, can we, I was just talking to some of the board members, and I guess they have approached us and are willing to talk to us about this, but.
Who are you just talking about?
Who's approached us?
Which board members?
Yeah. Who are you talking about?
Well, I talked to Eric Ertmo.
Are you talking about village board?
Village.
Oh, I'm sorry, village board, yeah. You know, the village people over there.
It's a village people.
Yeah, the village people. I think it was Eric Ertmore. Shut up. But, you know, they said that they, you know, would be willing to entertain that and look at some cost savings. And I guess it was the, I don't know, it was either the police, no, it was the fire district that saved a lot of money by outsourcing their finances. And so I'm just wondering, since it fits our strategic plan, it's something that I think it fits on this page well. You know, does the board want to give Tatiana direction to go out and, you know, look at any of these? Is this the opportunity to do so?
Let's get through this first.
Yeah.
When we get through this first, then when do we address that? I'm just asking the question.
I'm looking for.
I mean,
input
I
now.
think it's
I'm
a good
looking for
idea,
input. Okay.
Well,
the
I would
shared
like some
services.
specifics, because if you're going to give me direction, I'd like specifics. And I'd like it to be a consensus opinion.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I'm sort of looking for input to see whether
Right. I
we
think
need to move beyond.
Think some of the technology ones, it's, I think, a good candidate because it's, you get economy of scale clearly. So buy 75 hours versus somebody, gonna buy 1,000 hours, then will be much cheaper on the per hourly basis. Things like that in terms of some sort of a contractual kind of technology services, we could see what they use. If we combine our buying power, would that give us a cheaper rate? Things like that, I think we could explore. That's, not a bad idea, I think. I don't know what everybody else
Are you
thinks.
talking like for our existing IT that we outsource, IT that we outsource?
Because we did look into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay,
What we do now is less expensive than
Okay.
what was offered a year or two ago.
all right.
Could
So
we-
as long as we have done through the due diligence on that, that's
Because
fine.
we have changed our IT for the last couple of years. But I think what Walgreen might be talking, are you talking about like exploring something with like intergovernmental? Like, so like whatever they use for IT outsourcing plus our
Right.
IT, and maybe
Like-
combine those IT outsourcing
Yes.
to.
Like the
get
service, so
economies
instead of
of
only
scale.
service the village, could they also service the village and the library? So we have a combined purchasing power, maybe can negotiate a better rate on both sides.
So we looked into that
So
a couple
things like
years ago
that,
yeah.
when we were approached, and it did not benefit
Mhm.
us in terms of financial benefit.
They were actually
more
higher,
It was more
okay.
expensive.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it can't change, but it was.
Okay, at least we have investigated and made a
Right, yeah,
good
and
decision.
my feeling is I think we need to go ahead with the budget as it is, and if going forward at some point,
That's
the board
opportunity.
wishes to ask staff to go more in depth and do some research and present possible options then that would be up to the future
Yeah,
board, but at this
we
point.
can,
need
we
to
can
just-
always underspend a line.
Mhm.
We have 12 meetings a year. Any one of those 12 meetings, Tatiana may come to us and say, I found a cheaper way to do X. We don't need to decide it the day we discuss the budget.
That's true.
That's true. So I mean, you got whatever X amount of dollars budgeted.
Right.
And if you find something to be under budget, then at the end of the year, as far as the budget.
And then the other area was, and I don't even know if this is possible, I know we spent some money on accounting upgrades, maintenance, things of that nature. Can we piggyback off of their accounting system? Can we piggyback off of their accounting services?
Well, Ginger and I and Beth have talked about going with a different service, but not this year since we're changing auditors. So maybe for the next fiscal year, we could look into that.
All right, any other questions on contractual services? We'll move on to equipment costs.
Equipment costs. So this involves our cost for our Polaris contract. That's our overall catalog and servers and upgrades of software there. We also moved the hardware portion of the IT lines from .02 into the major equipment line. So again, that's why we see a very large hike in the budget to budget here. But it's pretty simple. It's Polaris, and then we moved the IT hardware account over.
So when we see the pages for the .02, it'll be all zeros, right?
Right. It'll be all zeros, but there will be expenses there. Well, we will be showing projects that we intend to expend this fiscal year, the outcomes of this year, projections.
But the budget up for
Yes.
1920 will be zeros.
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be actual expenses for this year
Yeah.
and projections. All right, any questions on this page?
All right, materials. Basically, we've increased this category by 4.5%. This is mostly due to increases in cost for the products, fiction, nonfiction. And then we've also increased our AV line for more purchases in the digital content arena. Any questions about any of the lines here?
Talk about the
Pretty-
5895-40 account, audio visual.
Right.
Yep, yep.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Any questions on that one? Okay, move on.
Kind of the same goes for the program costs. We've increased these by 5%. We're projecting to spend exactly what we budgeted for the rest of this year, but we're also looking to enhance some programs for the upcoming year. So that's why we've increased costs there.
Do you think 5% is enough? I think we talk about, one of our strategic goal and what's most popular, definitely program, especially the youth programs.
Right.
So,
Well, that's where we've increased
9%.
I think it'll be okay. We can always, if in planning, we're always planning, and we're planning now through summer read and then upcoming library-wide programs, and we can always appropriate a little more should we expend more. But I think 5% works. I mean, all of these sheets are a amalgam of conversations I've had with all of the directors of the departments, so I have touched
Okay.
base with everybody. So.
And is there a limit to how much we could increase based on facility and staff? I mean, how much more can we?
True.
How
I
much
mean,
can we work
there's
right
a
now?
constraint.
times can we
yeah.
book a room or
Mhm.
have,
That's true.
I mean, I agree with long read that was something we talked about in the strategic plan, and something that the users like is the programs.
True.
So I don't know, but I don't know
That's a
how
good point.
much more we could raise. If we could,
Yeah.
I would not be opposed to that, but I don't know.
We're in a good spot, but increasing it 5% I think makes sense for us.
Any other questions? I'll move on to contingents.
Yes, the last two categories are restricted use and contingency, and this page basically remains flat. We haven't increased, we haven't decreased. We are exactly the same as last year.
Any questions on this page? All right, then we'll move on.
Just out of curiosity, this is, I think you gave us a copy of this in the email you sent us. It's like a project list. Will we be able to tie this to what year each of these is gonna be projected to happen? And how much it's gonna cost?
They're basically tied to the year. You can see on the left, it says fiscal year 2018-19. Everything in gray has been completed. Everything that's not gray has not. So we can talk about what we intend to expend this year. Obviously, we had a lot of unexpected projects. And those last two areas in white, we will accomplish this year. And then the only other item that we will probably accomplish in this year is under planned campus and building, and that's the seal coating of the parking lot. And then the facility assessment, but that will be coming out of special reserve. The others will be coming out of 42.
So all of these are gonna be
They will
reflected
move, yeah, and they'll
on
move
these
down.
pages?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, that was the last sheet.
That is.
As Tatiana said, next time we'll be going over personnel,
Employee personnel.
revenue,
Revenue expenses.
special reserve.
Special reserve, yes. And then we'll have the rest of these incorporated.
There's no further discussion on the budget. Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 6:39.